Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive? This time we're heading back into space, into the realm of sci-fi horror.
Oh, excellent.
You guys shared some chapters from a potential Event Horizon sequel.
Oh, wow.
Event Horizon, Rebirth of Shadows, and yeah, I gotta say, it's got me hooked already.
I can imagine.
Now, fair warning, we are going to be talking some spoilers for the original movie. So if you haven't seen Event Horizon, maybe pause this, go watch it. It's a classic.
A must-see.
Then come back, and we'll jump into this sequel stuff together. But for everyone else, those who remember that ship, the chills it gave us, get ready, because it seems like we're going back.
It's amazing how these chapters, they really capture that lingering sense of dread, from that first film. It's not just a rehash like, oh, let's go back to the haunted ship. It digs deeper into the trauma, the mystery of what really happened out there.
Yeah. And you always say you love stories that blend that sci-fi action with the psychological thrills, and this seems to have both in spades.
Absolutely.
Picks up years later, throws us right back in with LTS Starck.
Oh, right.
One of the survivors. Remember her escape? Harrowing stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Now she's trying to rebuild her life, but the Event Horizon, it's not done with her. Not even close.
It's really striking how the writers show that trauma, that lasting impact. She's having these vivid nightmares, distorted voices, flashes of, well, let's just say it's clear those experiences on the ship, they left some deep, deep scars. And now there's this new signal coming from the wreckage, drawing her back in. Talk about facing your fears. It's
like that whole curiosity killed the cat thing, but ramped up. It's like trauma brought the survivor back to the source of their nightmares.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And you've talked about dealing with PTSD in your own life. I'm wondering if Starck's struggle with those psychological scars, if that resonates with you on a deeper level. The story seems to be asking, can we ever really escape our past? Or does it always find a way to come back? And haunt us? That's
a powerful question. And it's one this story really seems to want to explore in depth. It's not just about, surviving the monster, the immediate threat. It's about that psychological and emotional fallout.
Yeah.
Of something truly horrific. And the fact that Cooper is mentioned, another survivor.
Oh, yeah.
Suggests that he might be, dealing with his own demons, too.
Ooh. Okay, now I need to know how their paths are going to cross in this sequel. But it's not just the survivors, right?
Right.
We got a whole new crew assembled for this mission, and it's clear the writers put some thought into their backgrounds to make them a dynamic team. With diverse perspectives, we've got Captain Reyes, the tough, the seen-it-all leader.
Oh, I like her already.
Dr. Vasquez, she's a psychic researcher, so bringing a whole new dimension to the team, literally. Engineer Patel, the problem solver.
Gotta have one of those.
Then we got Dr. Reinhardt, our black hole expert. Gotta have one of those, too, when you're dealing with Event Horizons, right?
Absolutely.
And Hayes, the skeptical security officer, who, let's be honest, is probably going to have a rough time.
Yeah, he's in for a ride, that's for sure. This mix of expertise, though, it's deliberate. Right?
Yeah.
It feels like they're trying to appeal to a lot of interests. You've talked about enjoying both the hard sci-fi stuff and the psychological, character-driven narratives. So having a team that blends, the scientific minds with those who are more attuned to the unseen, it really broadens the story's scope.
It does. And speaking of unseen forces, things take a turn, a seriously eerie turn, when they finally arrive at the Event Horizon wreckage. The atmosphere, thick with tension, flickering lights, shadows everywhere, personal effects just scattered around like ghostly reminders of the lost crew.
It's like stepping into a tomb, but in space.
It is.
The way the writers set the scene, it's masterful. All that vivid imagery, sensory details, it just builds the suspense, playing on those primal fears of the unknown, the flickering lights, the whispers, this sudden cold.
Yeah.
It all keeps you on edge. And then they show these remnants of ordinary lives, a half-written letter, a child's drawing. It makes you empathize. Reminds you, these weren't just victims, they were people with hopes and dreams who met a terrifying end.
It's that mix of the mundane, the everyday with the horrific that really gets to you. You're surrounded by these normal things, but there's this feeling that something is just deeply wrong.
Deeply wrong.
And then there are Dr. Weir's logs.
Oh, yes.
Offering us a glimpse into his descent into madness on that first voyage. Remember him, the brilliant scientist.
Oh, how could we forget?
Became obsessed with the other dimension and ultimately succumbed to it. Well, these logs, they hint at what that dimension really is and the effect it had on him.
It's like opening a Pandora's box of cosmic horror. We see Weir's mind unraveling, his obsession with unlocking those secrets, his belief that this dimension, it holds ultimate power. And this isn't just another dimension, like a parallel universe or something.
Right.
It's implied to be something far more sinister. A realm of chaos, evil. Something our minds aren't meant to grasp.
And that's what makes it so scary, isn't it? The idea that there are things out there operating on a level we just can't understand that can warp our reality. And it's not just Weir's logs, right? We start to see like classic haunted house stuff happening on the ship,
Right.
Doors slamming on their own, whispers in the corridors, temperature changes you can't explain.
These are like those warning tremors before the earthquake.
Yeah.
A clear sign something's wrong. The ship itself, it's becoming a conduit for this malevolent presence. But it's Dr. Vasquez with her psychic abilities who really sets off the alarms. She's sensing something powerful, malevolent, and her reaction, it's not curiosity, it's terror.
She becomes our window into the unseen, and what she's seeing is terrifying. It's like the ship itself is becoming a breeding ground for this evil, and Vasquez, she's the only one who truly senses its power growing.
Makes me wonder, you love that mind-bending horror. Is this what draws you in, this reality-warping psychic element? Could it be some kind of manipulation we're seeing?
It's definitely possible, and it just adds a whole other layer to the story. We're not just dealing with something physical, but psychological, too. This entity, whatever it is, it seems like it can warp perceptions, play on fears, manipulate people to get what it wants.
And that's where things start to go really wrong for the crew.
Right.
We're thrown into this descent into madness, both personal and deeply disturbing. Each crew member, they start experiencing hallucinations tailored to their fears. Reyes, she sees visions of fallen comrades. Patel, he hears phantom mechanical failures, even when everything seems fine. It's masterful psychological horror. They're not just throwing in jump scares, they're tapping into each character's anxieties, making their descent into madness feel personal and, frankly, way more terrifying. And then there's the reality warping itself. Corridors changing shape, time bending, the ship itself like twisting around them.
This is what takes it beyond a ghost story, right?
Absolutely.
This isn't just a haunting. It's an assault on reality itself.
It is.
And then we have Hayes, who seems completely subdued, muttering about power and this other dimension. His ramblings, they leave us wondering, is he just a victim? Or is there something more to it?
Right.
Could he be connected to this entity or become an even bigger threat later?
He's a wild card, that's for sure. The writers are playing with us, making us question his role, victim, pawn, or something much, much worse. And that's what I find so compelling. It keeps you guessing. You never know what's coming next.
It's like being trapped in a nightmare where the rules don't make sense and you can't trust your own eyes. And as we get into Chapter 4, things go from bad to worse. The ship's core, that experimental gravity drive, the one that opened the gateway in the first place, it's reactivating. But this time, it's not just about the crew surviving. It's about stopping something catastrophic, something that could threaten the entire universe.
Wow.
Talk about raising the stakes.
The scope just explodes. We go from a haunted house in space to a potential cosmic horror scenario, the fate of humanity hanging in the balance. And in all this chaos, Dr. Vasquez, she comes up with a plan, a risky one. She thinks she can create a psychic containment field to trap the entity. But it's a gamble, a huge gamble.
It's that classic hero moment, but with a psychic twist. And it ties back to her character arc so well. We've seen her struggle with these abilities, the burden of sensing the unseen. But now she's embracing it.
She is.
Using it to protect others, even if it means unimaginable risk to herself.
It's a testament to her courage, her willingness to face her fears. But the question remains, will it be enough? The climax, it's intense. Reyes makes a heroic sacrifice. Vasquez manages to close the gateway, but not without a cost. The experience leaves her deeply affected. And we're left wondering, what toll did this take?
Yeah.
Has she truly contained the entity? Or has it somehow clung to her, influenced her from within?
Man, those are some seriously disturbing questions. And the writers, they don't give us easy answers. As we head into Chapter 5, our battered crew, they're returning to Earth, changed, but alive. It's a bittersweet victory for sure. They stopped a universe-ending catastrophe, but at a heavy price. And then there's that discovery, alien tech, integrated into the event horizon.
That's where the story really takes a turn. It goes beyond just a haunted ship and hints at something bigger, something ancient, evil? Who are these aliens? What was their connection to the other dimension? Could there be more of them out there? It's mind-boggling.
It's like the writers are saying, look, we've just scratched the surface here. The event horizon, it was just the beginning. And there's a whole universe of terrifying possibilities waiting out there. And then just when you think it's over, we get that final scene. Dr. Vasquez waking up in the medical bay, seemingly safe. But there's this ominous glow in her eyes.
That ending, it's unsettling, masterfully done, more questions than answers. And that lingering dread, it's effective. Has she been infected? Is the entity still out there waiting? It's a cliffhanger that just screams for more. And I'm already thinking about all the fan theories, the speculation about where this could go.
Me too. But first, let's take a minute to process all this. This is a story that stays with you. And that's what makes this deep dive so great. We're not just passively listening. We're engaging. We're analyzing, theorizing. It's like we're part of the creative process.
Absolutely. Unraveling the mysteries alongside the characters.
Exactly.
Really gets under your skin, doesn't it? And it's not just the horror, It's the deeper stuff that really hits home. Like we've been talking about the scars, the psychological trauma. It sticks with these characters even years later.
Makes you think, about how the things we go through, especially the bad stuff, they can really shape us, change how we see the world.
You mentioned struggling with anxiety after that car accident a while back.
Yeah.
And I can't help but see some of that in Starck's story here, that constant fear, the feeling that the past, it's not really the past. It can come back to get you anytime. I think a lot of people can relate to that, even if they haven't faced, literal cosmic horror.
Oh, absolutely. And the story, it doesn't shy away from that. It makes us face those uncomfortable truths. Sometimes healing isn't about forgetting. It's about learning to live with the stars, making them part of your story. Yeah, it's like that Japanese art kintsugi, right? Where they fix broken pottery with gold. They highlight the cracks instead of hiding them. There's beauty in that, resilience. And speaking of resilience, I gotta say, I'm drawn to Dr. Vasquez. She's not just a victim. She's fighting back, pushing her abilities to the limit, even if it means risking her own sanity.
She's fascinating, isn't she? On the one hand, so vulnerable, carrying the weight of those psychic abilities, seeing the darkest parts of the universe, but then so strong, so resourceful, determined to use what she has to protect others, even if it costs her peace of mind.
That psychic battle with the presence, man, that was intense. The way they described it, this clash of wills, the energy crackling between them, I could almost feel it. It reminded me of that scene in Scanners, the psychic duel, heads exploding and all that. But this was creepier, more psychological.
It was a battle for the soul, not just the body. And it brings up another big theme from these chapters, that pull of forbidden knowledge. Weir's obsession with the other dimension, Reinhardt's fascination with the core's power. It's like we as humans have this need to push to see what's beyond, even if it breaks us.
Like that saying, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, right? These characters, they're driven by good things, scientific discovery, protecting humanity, but that pursuit of knowledge, of power, it leads them down a dangerous path. Makes you wonder, when does curiosity become recklessness? When does the search for knowledge become self-destructive?
That's a question that's been around forever, hasn't it? The myth of Prometheus, Adam, and Eve. We're drawn to forbidden knowledge, to the consequences of overreaching. And with Event Horizon, that theme, it takes on a whole new, terrifying scale.
And let's not forget about those alien artifacts. That one detail, it opens up a whole new can of worms. Suddenly, it's not just a haunted ship, it's potentially this vast, ancient, cosmic horror. And who knows what else is out there. Makes you think, is the event horizon, is it just the beginning? Are there other gateways, other dimensions, other beings just lurking out there beyond what we can see?
It's a tantalizing thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it speaks to our fascination with the unknown, the vastness of space, the potential for wonder and terror. Remember when we were kids looking at the stars, wondering what was out there?
Oh, yeah.
This story, it taps into that primal awe and fear, reminding us we're just a small part of something much bigger and much more mysterious.
And you always talk about loving cosmic horror, so this expansion of the mythology, it must be pretty exciting.
Oh, it is.
It's like Lovecraft meets Alien, right? That blend of technology and ancient unknowable beings gives me chills just thinking about it.
It's potent. And the writers are handling it well. They give us just enough to get us hooked, to get our imaginations running. But they leave a lot to the mystery. And that's what's so great about this deep dive. We're not just sitting back, we're part of it. We're piecing together clues, trying to figure out what's going to happen next.
It's like We're detectives, but the clues are scattered across dimensions and wrapped up in cosmic horror.
That's a good way to put it.
Speaking of detectives, let's look closer at some of these characters. Dr. Vasquez in particular, I'm really intrigued by her. What are your thoughts on her arc, her role in all this?
She's the heart of it all, wouldn't you say? We see her struggling with those abilities. The burden of being the one who sees, who senses what others can't, always on edge, bombarded by psychic noise, and yet she keeps going. She's a light in all that darkness.
I'm drawn to that duality, you know?
Yeah.
The vulnerability and the strength, the fear and the determination. It makes her feel so real, and her journey from this reluctant psychic to maybe even a savior of humanity. That's a story I want to see. You mentioned enjoying stories with strong female leads, and I think Vasquez has the potential to be one of the most compelling characters in this whole universe.
Absolutely. She's not just a victim, she's a force. And the fact that she's a woman of color in the leadership position, that's important too. Representation matters. These stories should reflect the diversity of our world.
Yeah, and her powers, they're not just a plot device. They reflect something deeper, her inner strength, her resilience. She's tapping into something primal, something ancient, and using it to fight back against this cosmic horror makes me wonder, where does her power come from? Is it something she was born with, or did she learn it? Years of training, discipline?
That's a good question. The story hints at a history of psychic abilities in humans. Like maybe there's a hidden line of people who have these gifts. Maybe Vasquez is part of that. Or maybe she's a pioneer, someone pushing the limits of what humans can do, unlocking abilities we've forgotten or suppressed.
I like that. It adds another layer of mystery. Makes you think, if Vasquez can do it, what's stopping others? Could there be a whole society of psychics, hidden from the world, working to protect us from the darkness? Now that's a story I'd read.
Fascinating idea, right? And it could really open up this universe. We could explore the history of these abilities, different factions, conflicts, alliances, so much potential.
And it goes back to that forbidden knowledge theme, doesn't it? If psychic powers are real, why are they secret? Is it to protect them? Or is there something more to it? Are there forces here on Earth that would want to control these abilities, to use them for their own gain?
Gets right to the heart of power, doesn't it? Who controls knowledge, information, the narrative? And if psychic abilities are real, that's a huge shift in power. No wonder those in charge might want to keep it quiet, to stay on top.
It's like they say knowledge is power, but here it's more like psychic power is ultimate power, and that's both exciting and terrifying.
Exactly. Brings up all these questions about what it means to be human, our potential for good, for evil. That's what makes this story so good. It's not just about monsters and spaceships. It's about us, our fears, our desires, our capacity for incredible things and for terrible things.
It's like a reflection of our own darkness, the shadows that are always lurking underneath. Speaking of shadows, let's talk about the other side of this, the malevolent presence itself. What do we learn about it? Its nature, its motives. Is it purely evil, or is there something more to it?
That's the big question, isn't it? And the writers, they're not making it easy. They're leaving us to figure it out. We see its influence, its power, how it manipulates, corrupts. It seems to feed on fear, on despair, on the worst parts of us. But its true nature, its origins, its goals, those are still mysteries.
Like a cosmic Rorschach test, right? We see what we're afraid of, our anxieties about the unknown, the darkness we can't comprehend, and that's part of what makes it scary. It's our own fears reflected back at us, twisted and amplified.
And the fact that it doesn't seem to have a clear motive, it's not one we can understand, that makes it even more unsettling. It's not just evil for evil's sake. It's something more basic, more chaotic, like a force of nature, a hurricane, an earthquake, but with a malevolent consciousness behind it.
That's a chilling thought, and it connects to that Lovecraftian idea we talked about. That there are forces out there so vast, so old, so alien to us that we can barely even grasp their existence, let alone understand why they do what they do.
Exactly. And that feeling of being so insignificant, of facing something so beyond us, that can be deeply unsettling, terrifying even. It shakes our sense of order, our belief that we're in control.
And yet there's something beautiful about it too, isn't there? Knowing that we're part of something much bigger, something that goes beyond what we can see, what we can understand. It's humbling, awe-inspiring, and yeah, a little scary too.
It's a reminder that there are still mysteries out there, things we don't know, forces we can't control. And that's what makes life and stories like this so fascinating. They push us to the edge of what we know, to face the unknown. and to think about the big questions, our place in the universe.
And speaking of big questions, let's get back to that ending, the cliffhanger that left us all with goosebumps. The crew gets away, the gateway's closed, but there's that lingering unease. Dr. Vasquez waking up with those eyes, the idea that the presence might still be out there, it's masterful storytelling.
It is. It makes us want to know more. To imagine what happens next. Has she been infected? Will the presence find another way back? And what about that alien tech? They've planted a seed of doubt, something that'll stay with us.
It's like a horror movie that sticks with you, even after it's over. Those images, those ideas, they pop into your head when you least expect it. And you know me, I love a good horror flick. But this goes beyond the jump scares, the gore. It's a slow burn, a terror that gets under your skin and makes you question everything.
That's the power of a good story, right? It can take you to other worlds, make you think about new ideas, challenge what you thought was real, and Event Horizon, Rebirth of Shadows, it does all that, and leaves you wanting more.
Couldn't agree more. And that's why we do these deep dives. We get to pick apart the story, analyze the themes, and just speculate. But the real magic happens when we connect these ideas to our own lives, our experiences, our understanding of the world.
It's about taking those fictional elements and using them to look at our own realities, our own fears, our own hopes. And in doing that, we enrich the story and ourselves. But hey, let's not get too philosophical here. We still have those fan theories to get to, all those what-ifs we've been thinking about.
You're right. Let's jump into the speculation pool and see what we can come up with. That's half the fun of a good cliffhanger, all right? All right, let's dive right in. That speculation pool, it's calling my name. You know I can't resist a good fan theory. And after that ending, my mind's been racing. What do you think? Vasquez, is she really safe? Or is there something else going on?
That's the question, isn't it? The one that's been bugging me too. Remember how you love those stories with unreliable narrators?
Oh, yeah.
Well, this ending makes me wonder, can we even trust what we see? What if her recovery, it's all an act, a trick by that entity to make everyone think everything's fine, lull them into a false sense of security.
Ooh, sneaky. It's like that classic horror move. The final girl, you think she's safe, but then bam, the nightmare's not over. And Vasquez, with her connection to that other place, she could be the perfect way for it to come back.
Exactly. Imagine she's back on Earth, seems fine, but then she starts acting strange. Her powers getting stronger, more out of control. Maybe she's manipulating people without even knowing it, spreading that darkness. It would be terrifying. A slow burn, reality and nightmare all mixed up.
And you always love stories about the dark side of human nature, so this has got to be right up your alley.
It is.
To see someone fighting their own demons, battling this invisible force that's eating away at them, that's powerful stuff.
It's that classic good versus evil, but with a psychic twist. And it makes you wonder, can Vasquez win? Can she beat this thing? Or will she lose herself, become the very thing she was trying to stop?
Now that's a question that keeps me up at night. Part of me, I want to believe in her strength, her resilience. She's proven she's capable, compassionate. She'll sacrifice herself for others. But then those glowing eyes, hard to shake that feeling that something's different. Like that entity left its mark on her.
The writers did a great job there, didn't they? Just enough ambiguity to keep us guessing. We're left wondering, what if? Imagining all the ways her story could go. Will she be a hero, using her powers to protect everyone? Or will she be a tragic figure, destroyed by the very thing she tried to control?
A hero's journey, but with a cosmic horror spin. And speaking of spins, we can't forget those alien artifacts. You're always talking about ancient civilizations, lost tech. What if those artifacts, they hold the answers? The entity's origins, its weaknesses, maybe even a way to destroy it.
It's like a cosmic treasure hunt. Imagine scientists, researchers all huddled over these things, trying to figure them out, to unlock the secrets of a civilization that might have faced this entity centuries ago. Indiana Jones meets the X-Files, with a side of Lovecraft.
I can see it now. A secret lab, buried deep underground. Experts working day and night, decoding symbols, activating ancient machines, uncovering secrets from a long-lost world.
And what if those artifacts, they're more than just information? What if they have technology, weapons even, designed to fight this entity? We could have a whole new kind of war. Humanity against forces we can't even imagine, fighting with things that break the laws of physics.
Now that's what I'm talking about. Humanity wielding alien tech against cosmic horror. It'd be a battle for the ages, and it would definitely amp up the action, the spectacle.
It would be a visual feast for sci-fi fans. But it also makes you think, right, about the ethics of it all. If we get our hands on this tech, how do we know we won't misuse it? Could we become the monsters we're trying to fight?
It's like that line from Jurassic Park, right? Your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should. It's a warning about messing with things we don't understand, and it definitely applies here.
Absolutely. It adds another layer to the story. It's not just good versus evil. It's about the choices we make, what happens because of them, the responsibility that comes with power, whether it's science, technology, even psychic abilities.
It's a reminder that even when we mean well, we can screw up. We can be blinded by ambition. We can unleash things we can't control. And that's what makes this story so powerful. It makes us think about these hard questions, the ethical dilemmas that come with exploring the unknown.
It stays with you. Those questions echoing in your mind like a bad dream.
And that's what good storytelling does, right? It sparks our imagination, makes us question things, and leaves us with a sense of wonder and maybe a little bit of existential dread.
It's like looking into the abyss and realizing it's looking back at you. And yeah, that can be unsettling, but it's also kind of thrilling. It reminds us how much is out there that we don't know. So much to discover, so many stories waiting to be told. And that's what keeps us coming back, isn't it? That curiosity, that need to push further, to see what's out there, even if it means facing our fears. Who knows, maybe someday we will get that sequel and finally get some answers.
Until then, we speculate. We theorize, we keep those mental gears turning, and that's what makes these deep dives so great. It's all about exploring ideas together, a shared journey into the imagination.
It reminds us that we're not alone in this. In our curiosity, our fascination with the unknown, there's a whole community of listeners out there, just like you, who want to dive into these stories, figure out what they mean, and share their own thoughts.
So, until next time, keep looking up. But maybe not too closely. You never know what you might find.